Oh my gosh, this isn't Chris. It isn't. It's me. It's Journeyman John. And I get to do the live show tonight. So we're going to have some fun. How are you guys all doing tonight? I see we've already got a couple of people on. Brian Wagner's on. Jordan has been hanging out with us. Brandon Mitchell. Oh, is it working? Are we working? We've got sound. Maybe. Let's see. Maybe it's working. It is working. We were just joking. Maybe. Hey, we have Daniel Contractors is on. Hey, Daniel, what's going on? Congrats on the new job, man. That sounds like super fun. Everything's good. Now the chat's popping up. We're rocking. We're rolling down. So sound, no pick. Yes, sound. You're good. I can hear you. What's up, Stuart McKenzie from Country's Painting Service. It's good to be here, Paint Life community. Actually, let me stop and say something real quick, because I don't get to sit here on Mondays very often and say this to you guys, but we really, really love you guys. This Paint Life community and what it's done for our company and for the trade. Guys, we're just so ecstatic about everything that we get to share, all the different things we're learning, all the different stories that we're hearing. That is some super cool things. And it's you guys. It's you guys being willing to be a part of this community, being willing to help raise the bar, being willing to help be better and call other people up to be better. That's super cool. And we can't tell you guys how much we appreciate you guys. The Paint Life community, the Idaho Painter team, we're here to equip, educate, and empower you guys. I always get those in the wrong order, but there's 3 E's, right? Equip, educate, empower. And we love painters and we love you guys. So props to you guys. Props to you guys. So we've got a handful of people are starting to pop on now. This is good. It's working. So Philip Ramirez from San Antonio, Texas. John Harrell, I recognize that name, from Eastern North Carolina. Brandy Smith saying you guys need to come to Indiana. I've been to Indiana one time. I'm not going to lie. I have a really hard time with the whole humidity thing. Like, I step out of the plane and I just feel like I stepped into a shower. And I love my dry Idaho heat. That's amazing. The whole Midwest thing. We were down in Texas. Oh, but yes, we do need to get out to Indiana. Tonight, guys, Chris and Lisa, they got to hit up the Kentucky Derby. They were having a ball over there. Their plane is coming in super late tonight. So lucky you get me. So any questions you've ever wanted to ask me, you can get direct access right now. Let me know, and we'll start working through a couple of questions. If not, I'm going to start talking about how we train our new guys when they're fresh out of the ocean, out of the net, something when they first get started with us, because that's when they become my problem. Let's see. What happened to my hand? So I was doing some honeydews, some gardening, and I was like, I'm going to get rid of all of these weeds. And I pulled up a bunch of weeds and have just a massive blister on the inside of my hand, and I don't want it to get worse than it already is. And today I was staining a horse stable, which was gross, to put it lightly. And so I was, we're just making sure it's clean. We're covering all of our bases on that. So John Shader, why do they call you Journeyman John? Because there's 2 J's in it and we love alliteration. That's why the educate, empower, and equip thing. But no, I am a journeyman painter. I have been painting I started painting 13 years ago. And even before that, had several years of construction experience. I grew up in construction. I grew up, my dad was a structural steel worker. And so from like the age of 10, he had us out there helping him clean his shop. And I think I was welding like structural beams at the age of 13, but it's kind of a secret. So, you know, construction trades, none of that's new to me, but I started working for Chris while I was in college. I think I was a freshman in college. It was pretty early on. And so we've been at it ever since. And so I have not as many years as some of you guys have, not as many years as Chris has, but I've got a lot of years and thousands of houses under my belt. So I get to call myself a journeyman because of the experience and what we've gone through. So Luis Vega, what's up from Texas City, Texas? Bobby Willis is here. Hey, Bobby Willis, what's going on? Don, the gooseneck guy, is here. Let's see. How did I learn to spray? So, you know, it's funny because for a long time, Chris kept the spraying super guarded. So he did not want to hand that over to anyone. I think he had tried a few times with some guys who had kind of come before me, and they never would do it how he wanted to. Well, the business got to a point where he needed to start spending more time working on the business. And, you know, YouTube, I think at that point, YouTube was starting to pick up a little bit of steam. And so that was kind of his hobby he was kind of working on. And plus, I think he was just kind of getting a little tired of climbing up and down extension ladders. And so, you know, it was a process. It's the same process that we work with all of our guys when we're teaching them to spray. We always start them on easy things. So we're going to start them off on things like shutters. Like we have vinyl shutters here. We'll pop them off. We'll lay them down on buckets, and we'll ease them in on shutters or things like downspouts where it's small. It's kind of hard to mess up. And if it does get messed up, we can fix it. From there, we'll graduate to things like front doors. Again, we're going with small projects that we can make sure that they've got obviously the basics of using the machine. So can they set it up? Can they tear it down? Can they make sure it's clean? Can they fix any issues that come up with it? Are they going to follow all of the rules that need to happen as far as, you know, are you checking for your overspray? Do you have drop cloths and masking and coverage and all that stuff down? So, and then from there, we'll ease them into accent pieces on a house. So like up here, we'll have gables or shakes or things like that that are going to be an accent color. Gutters or some kinds of fascia, we'll spray those. And it's kind of easing those into until you're doing the body of the house. And we save the body for last because obviously that's where it's going to take the most skill in making sure you're putting on even coverage, you're getting the correct mill thickness, but you're not getting too heavy where you're going to end up with issues down the road, that you can have a system in place and work your system down the house and look at a 30-foot side on a house and figure out, okay, how am I going to do this? Where's the sun's at? How's the wind? What do I have to be worried about overspray? And so we work up to all of those things to spraying the body. And then from there, we get into even some more specialty things like trim packages on interiors and cabinets. And I've probably gone on long enough about our process for how we get guys spraying. But that's kind of the road I took to how I learned how to spray. A lot of it is, look, at some point, you've just got to take someone and put a gun in their hand and say, hey man, you're going to mess up, but that's okay. I'm here. We'll work through it. And that's part of being, that's part of being a journeyman. That's really what's going to separate an apprentice from a journeyman, is the fact that an apprentice may know how to do things, but a journeyman's going to know how to do those things and then know when an issue happens, how to resolve that issue quickly and efficiently. And so that means, and this is something we're working through with Zach right now. Captain Zach is great. He's one of the most naturally mechanically gifted painters that I think I've ever met. And the thing is that Zach needs more experience, and that's what we're working on getting. He has to make those mistakes, and he has to go through those issues and start doing that problem solving. And that's how we get into that process of, okay, now you know how to spray, but now here's what you do when the sprayer isn't working, or here's what you do when you run into this unique situation, or hey, now you've got to run, or now there's some overspray, or now the wind's picking up. And so you've got to be able to deal with all of those things. Let's see. I do have a couple announcements, one announcement in particular. If you check out the Instagram page, we are on Instagram, Idaho Painters. We're on Facebook, The Idaho Painters. But on Instagram, Chris just posted a photo, and we'll be throwing it up on Facebook pretty soon here too, about the Contractor Success Summit. And that's contractorsuccesssummit.com. And that's going to run from May 14th through the 16th. And what that is it's this group that wants to help contractors. And so they interviewed, you remember if it's 18, 19, 20 different companies about, hey, you know, what are some issues you've had? What are the tips or secrets you think to your success? And we got to be a part of that. And so they interviewed me, they interviewed Chris, the Idaho Painter, they interviewed Lisa, Paint Wife. And we just talked about social media. We talked about, you know, things about hiring, things about doing bids and estimates and doing them in a quick and efficient way. So put that on your calendars. Do check that out. It is free. So it's Contractor Success Summit.com. And so that is out there on the chat now. Do check that out, because between what we were able to put out there and what some of these other companies and entrepreneurs have been able to put out, I think it's going to be some really great content. And who doesn't like free learning? That's why we're on YouTube. Am I right? Today we are going to do some giveaways because, well, Chris and Lisa aren't here, so I get to choose what the giveaways are. And we're gonna do a hat. We haven't done a hat in a while. We got one of these fine Paint Life hats. It's sexy, it fits well, it's adjustable. I like it. I actually like this better than all of the other hats that we've had through the years. And Chris is kind of specific about the hats that he likes. So one of these is going to be going out a little bit later tonight. And then, of course, where would we be without giving away one of these 2-edge knives? I know we've talked about these things a lot. The reason we've talked about them a lot is because we love them. They stay in your pocket. Guys, I can't tell you how convenient it is to have your 5-in-1 and your knife together at last. Like, I feel like there should be like a Barry White song coming on right now, something like that. But you know, we do sell these on our store, but tonight we're going to be giving away one to a lucky winner. But back to the chat, because I've been talking for a while. And the chat has been going like crazy. Hey, John, cleaning your 440, do you clean the manifold filter every go-around, and in what order? And that's from Jake Starlings. Jake, we don't, on the old 440s, we don't clean them every time. On the new 440s, you have to, because I think when we spoke with one of their engineers or reps, basically they made the manifold filter bigger on the pump so that it would catch more, I think is what it was, so that it would be easier on the tip on the gun. And so the problem with that now is paint stays in there, and if you don't pull that body manifold filter off and clean it out every time, you're never going to get clear water to come through. So we do it every time. Typically, I'll do a quick flush with water to get the paint out of the system, get water starting to soak. At that point, I'll pull that manifold filter off. I'll clear that out. That way, we're not just sending more paint into it. But it's kind of pointless to run cleaner water through until that manifold filter is clean, because otherwise, you're just sending more dirty water back through the pump, and it doesn't actually get any better. So there's that. Third Coast, I've been needing help in this area. I don't know what that one is. So K's info here. Big question. I have to paint cabinets, best to spray, and what do you thin paint with? So with cabinets, we always spray our cabinets. You don't have to. There's lots of ways to skin a cat. There's lots of ways to apply an architectural coating. We use lacquer because we feel like it's durable. We feel like it gives our clients the best finish, the best performing finish, and the most durable finish. Look, there's a reason coming out of the cabinet shop that these cabinets have lacquer on them. It's for a reason. It's durable, and it's made to last. So we put lacquer on our cabinets. Obviously, lacquer, you have to thin with lacquer thinner. I do know that there are lots of guys who have success using, from Sherwin, they'll use emerald trim urethane. I think I've heard some good things about that. It takes a couple of days to really set up, but after 3-4 days, that stuff does not come off of anything and hardens up pretty well because it is a modified urethane. PPG Breakthrough, which we've played around with a little bit, that stuff is the bomb. It dries fast. It's one of the reasons we use lacquers, because it ups our turnaround time. It does dry super, super fast, which is really great. And then I know guys use, I think it's Advanced from Benjamin Moore, which we've used not on cabinets. We've used it on some trim before. It's good. I think Benjamin Moore has great products. We just don't use them a lot because we don't have great access to them here. Bobby Willis, John, do you think you'll ever go out on your own? No, I don't think I will. You know, Chris is a great boss, okay? And I can say that because he's on a plane and he's not watching this right now, so I'm not sucking up. But Chris and Lisa are great people to work for. And I think part of our hope is to help people become great people to work for, because, you know, we get complaints a lot about, oh, I can't find employees, yada, yada, yada. Part of it is, man, you got to take care of your employees. And it goes beyond just, man, are you taking care of them financially? It's a, hey, do you actually care about what's going on in their lives? Do you care about what's, you know, what they want, who they are, what they're dreaming of, where they want to go in life? And that takes energy, and that takes some emotional energy, and not everybody wants to do that, because, you know, running a business is difficult in itself, let alone pouring out into some people that you may never get thanked for, or who may never realize what you're doing for them. But Chris and Lisa have been very good about that. And that's something I've always admired and respected about them. And that's something I always strive to be as I supervise and I'm training up guys underneath me, is to be that same model. And that's something that we really want to encourage, because we think that's what makes and breaks businesses, is creating that positive culture. So I have no plans to go out on my own. We have a ball with what we do. You know, painting houses, obviously sometimes it sucks when it's 110 degrees and you're scraping, and that's kind of a bummer. But honestly, our crew, we have fun, we get things done, we're proud of what we do. I love what I do, and I don't right now, I just don't see that changing. So there's another long answer to a short question. What are your recommendations on footwear? Recently ripped 3 holes. So here, we're just going to bust through as many of these questions as possible. We got to set a record, but I need someone to like if Andrew's here, I haven't scrolled down yet, but if Andrew's here, I need like Andrew to keep track of how many questions, and then we're going to hold that over Chris's head and say, you've got to beat this. So I'll stop doing the long answers and start doing the short answers. Let's see. How long have you been working with Chris? From Ryan Petzold. I started working with Chris 13 years ago. Recommendations on footwear. I don't know. Honestly, every time I spend big money on shoes, I still wear through them in a year because we're walking so many miles every year. But the last 2 times I have bought Doc Martens Wellington slip-on. I can't remember what they're really called, but I love slip-on boots like that. I love that they don't look like cowboy boots because I'm not a cowboy, but they're comfortable. They do come in a safety toe if that's something you're into. It's not something I'm into because I don't like microwaving my feet all summer. But yeah, those have worked out pretty well for me, but they only last about a year. And then, I've pretty well worn out the soles on them. And some of that's just walking on the roofs and as many miles going around the houses. James Plano, welcome. What is your degree in? I have a bachelor's degree, a dual major in theology and nonprofit administration. Obviously super applicable to painting. But that is what my degree is in. Rick Wasek. What's up, Rick? It's good to see you here. Jonathan E. Barr. Let's see. Another question. What sprayer would you recommend to stain a swing set? Zach Notel. Look, Zach, I guess it depends. If you are a pro painter, I think it's good to invest in a sprayer. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, I think one of the things you need to keep in mind is a lot of painting companies, I know like our local Sherwin does, I believe pretty much every painting supplier around here, they actually rent out sprayers, and they're usually 40 to 60 bucks a day, or usually a tool rental place, somewhere like that. Sometimes they will have them. Sometimes that's a better route to go if you're just going to have a one-off project that you need a sprayer for, rather than dropping the money, you know, $700-800 on a 440 or a 395. So as far as starting sprayers for something like that, you know, the Graco handheld, the Ultramax handheld would actually be okay for something like that, because you're really not going to pump that much product through it. It's quick. It's relatively cheap, right around $400 or $500. But I typically will lean on, look, just go all in, invest in a Titan 440 or Graco 395, especially if you're a professional painting contractor. Let's see. So I sprayed a garage door the other day with the Pro X gun you sent me. Turned out great, but I got a call back. They want it painted under the weather stripping. That's a bummer. We get that question a lot because we don't paint under the weather stripping. Part of the reason we don't do that is because we have heard horror stories, and we've actually seen issues where the weather strip will get hot, especially if it's a southern exposure, especially here. It can get pretty toasty in the summer, and that paint will bond to the back of that weather strip and either tear that weather strip up, or it will seal that door in and then pull the control arm out of the back of the door, which is expensive. And typically nobody wants to deal with that. And so when we explain that, people are generally like, I completely understand. That totally makes sense. It's the same with, we don't like when the garage door opens up and you see that little sliver, we typically don't paint in there either, for the same reason, especially as they start getting more and more coats on them, because we're doing repaints. You can get that mill thickness to bridge, and it can create some issues with things kind of sticking together. So we don't, what we tell them is, if your door shifts, because occasionally it does, all you have to do is call us back out. We will come in, we will touch up whatever has shifted away, and we take care of it like that. But we do not typically paint behind those weather strips. I got to get faster at this if I'm going to beat any sort of record here. So no, we don't normally paint under them. Do you think that an 18-year-old can open a painting company if I know what I'm doing? Absolutely, VR. Look, we were at the PDCA Expo this last fall, and we met a couple of guys, young guys, who started up painting companies and are killing it. They're not 18. They're a little older than that. Here's the thing you need to understand if you are that young. One, if you're like me, you should probably try growing a beard, because if you're 18 but you look like you're 12, no one's really going to take you seriously. But two, you do need to understand that you may know a lot, but you definitely don't know everything. And so painting, especially, is a trade where it takes a lot of humility. You've just got to be open to learning. You've got to be open to changing how you do things and your perspective on things, and growing and pivoting and evolving, and however you want to put it. But yeah, absolutely, you can do it. You just got to understand, man, starting up a painting company, starting up any company, it's a lot of work, and it can be a grind to get through. But it's one of those things where if you stick with it, if you're always trying to better yourself, you're always pouring back into that, and this is the thing that you're about, eventually you're going to come out that other side, and what you're going to get out of that is going to be worth everything beforehand. But obviously my caveat with that is remember your family, because family is important. But at 18, probably don't have a lot going on as far as family. So XC Painter, what's going on? What's up, Kenneth Wheeler? How are you doing? Let's see. Oh, I just saw a good one, but I lost it because I scrolled down and then it popped up. Oh, let's see. I don't change my gun filter till it has a hole in it. Typically, we don't change our gun filters until one of the apprentices has forgotten to clean it out a couple of times, and we've been using resilience, and then you can't clean it out. And so we buy a new gun filter, and I get a little grumpy for a little while. I always prime with a lacquer. Let's see. See, I'm jumping around too much here. I used to use lacquer undercoater on my trim in new houses. That was super common around here, Daniel Garner. I think a lot of places still do, but obviously depending on the state you're in, a lot of places are going away from that. How do you get insurance? I'm going to leave that question for Lisa because she is better at that stuff than I am. Have you ever used Spar urethane for indoor-outdoor wood window trim? Yeah, typically we're using almost exclusively water-based products. So we do use Helmsman urethane, which is like a modified polyurethane. It's not the Spar urethane, but I like Helmsman. I know a lot of guys don't like it. They think it's finicky. I think once you learn how to work with it, how to use it, I love the sheen, especially with the satin, and I love the depth that it gives you. Do I get double time for this? No. I'm here to hang out with you. What the heck happened to your eyebrow? What are you saying, James? What's wrong with my eyebrows? Well, I mean, my wife is always like telling me like I've got old man eyebrows and they get long, and then she like wants to trim them, and then she'll sneak up on me and try to like pull one out. But they're just blonde because I work outside, especially this time of year, and so just they disappear. Let's see, John Shader. If Chris provides incorrect information and is called on it, why does he not reply? He should at least acknowledge the fact that he made a mistake, don't you think? I love you guys, but come on. John Shader, not sure what you're talking about. We try to be pretty humble about everything as far as if it's on social media. Look, what you guys got to understand is we get tons and tons and tons of comments and messages and things like that coming in. We try to stay up on it between Chris, Lisa, and myself. But we are also trying to paint several houses a week and have a business running and bringing up apprentices. And we have families that we do actually enjoy and want to spend time with. So we try to be pretty humble about everything. We know we're not the only way. We know that we're always learning. There are things. We just repainted a house 2 weeks ago that we had done about 12 years ago, 13 years ago. It was like right after I had started. And there were things I'm looking around. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we used to do it like that. Now we do it like this. We're always learning, and that's our goal. So I guess, John, without knowing what it is, I don't know. We try to be open about that and just say, hey, there's lots of different ways to do things. And if we get something wrong, we've always tried to be pretty upfront about just saying, our bad. We're learning too. So what would you recommend instead of kills or cover stain instead of oil for exterior? Peel bond. So typically on our exteriors, Daniel, what we are using for our primer, we will carry peel bond is the big one that we use. We carry a couple cans, like aerosol cans of like a shellac or an oil-based thing. We carry a fast dry oil primer inside in case we come up to things like wax bleed or an instance where we do need to use some sort of oil primer, but we try not to break that out unless we have to. Like I said, for things like wax bleed, where we're following kind of some of the paint manufacturers' recommendations for dealing with those things. Okay. Let's see. Priming exteriors that are rough. Yeah, it's just back brushing stuff in, Daniel. What are your top 5 steps for training an employee? I will get to that, but I feel like the very first thing we need to do before we do that is give something away. So what we're going to do is we're going to save the hat because I like the hat. I also like the 2-edge knife, but we're gonna give this guy away first. So I'm gonna write a number on the back because I keep holding it upside down here, and we're gonna go with a number between. We're gonna go with a number between 1 and 50. We'll leave it open like that, and that number is right there now. And I will do my best to find the first person who guesses this number. I'm not gonna say it like I almost just did. But the first person to guess this number is going to be the fine owner of a 2-edge knife. Let's see. Let's see. Another question. So when you're prepping exteriors and you caulk, are you painting over caulk the same day? Typically, no. Well, there are times that we do, but typically we are not. Typically, if we are prepping, we're going to caulk, we're going to let that dry, we're going to come back. If we are painting the same day, then we take certain precautions. Obviously, we're looking at temperature, we're looking at weather, we're looking at a lot of different factors to make sure our dry time is sufficient. We've never had an issue when we have painted or done the prep work and painting on the same day as the prep work on the same day as painting. You know, there are some things you can do to help yourself with things like quick dry caulking. But if you use quick dry caulking, you're typically going to lose some of your elasticity in your caulking too, which is kind of a bummer because that's kind of the whole point of it. But yes, occasionally we're going to do that. You know, we do it all, obviously we do it all the time on interiors because we're using that caulking tape trick a lot. And so that's you know, I don't get so hung up about the caulking Nazis who, well, we're not going to, I won't digress into that. Let's see, what else? Caulking can be painted in the same day. Yeah, you just look at your, whoa, numbers. That was fast. Okay, so I lost some of the numbers and all of the questions beforehand because that's the magic of YouTube. But the first number I see is Kenny Sanders. So Mr. Kenny Sanders, 22 was the number. You are going to be the proud new owner of a 2-edge knife. So Kenny, email us at liveshow without an E at theidahopainter.com. That is down there. You can stop with the numbers now because I can't see anything. What's your go-to primer for cabinets? Because that's Affordable Painting Services, ANT. Because we use lacquer, what we are typically using for cabinets is, well, okay, it's primer surfacer, but don't let them fool you. Don't let those sneaky guys at Sherwin-Williams fool you because they do that to us every once in a while, and it's a huge headache. There are two different primer surfacers. One is P65 and one is E63. They are both Sherwood primer surfacers, precast primer surfacers. The E63 is the bomb. It builds great. It's really thin. I don't have to thin it running it through an HVLP. I like it so much better than that P65. The P65, I have to reduce it between 40 and 50%, which is getting to that uncomfortable point of how much I'm reducing it and how effective it's going to be at its job. So for cabinets, that's typically what we're going to do. Yes, congrats, Kenny. Congrats. You're the man. You're the man. Yeah, I know some guys, XC Painters saying Benjamin Moore Fresh Start Oil 217. It all just depends on the top coat. You just got to remember when you're doing things like cabinets, think of systems. Don't think of, okay, here's your primer, here's your paint. Think of, here's the top coat that I want to use, and here's the best primer for that top coat. And you think in that complete system, and that's going to save you a lot of heartache. So, you know, check the spec sheets. It really just depends on your top coat. If you're using a water, if you're using an oil, if you're using a lacquer, different things like that. Do you guys cut in the top over door trim and window trim, or do you leave it because no one can see it up there? Because I know a lot of contractors don't do above. Cut in the top over. So Calvin, Rudy Duncan, we do, I mean, we cut everything in. If we're supposed to paint it, then it's going to get painted. So that's typically what we do. A lot of that's just, look, I want to leave the job, and when I walk away from the job, feel good about it. And that's what we want each of our guys to do as well. Jordan 23, do you still get nervous on some jobs? The jobs themselves don't make me nervous. It's usually a type of client that makes me nervous. Usually we, because of our reputation, we deal with a lot of higher end clients. We deal with a lot of engineers. And Andrew's not here for me to give a lot of smack about, but engineers can be difficult to work with, to put it nicely. They are great people. They are nice. They know what they want. It's a different kind of client to work with. Those guys tend to make me not really nervous, but it's just that anxiety playing in the back of my mind where I'm just like, oh my gosh, they're standing over my shoulder watching me this whole time. And then I have to explain mill thickness, and then I have to explain how we know we're getting the right mill. It's a process. But for the most part, especially on exteriors, I don't get nervous a whole lot more. I've got enough under my belt. I've made enough big mistakes and fixed enough big mistakes that I feel pretty comfortable with just about everything that we roll up to, even a lot of the new stuff. Bronco Demcula, how old is John? That's none of your business. Leave it at that. CNN says they're the most trusted name in news, so that's cool, CNN. Congrats. That's good for you. Let's see. I paint the top of the trim. I use the caulking tape trick for years, usually on baseboard floor juncture around toilets. Luis Vega, we love the tape caulking trick. I know some guys are going to get on and be like, well, you're a journeyman, you should cut a line. I can cut a line, okay? I know how to cut a line. I'm comfortable cutting a line. But what this does is this allows us to bring new guys in and make them more efficient and more effective a lot earlier. And so they make the company more money and they become a more valuable employee. And then we even get to pay them more money because they can make the company money. It's like a nice, happy circle. But that is one of the reasons we rely on that trick. Obviously, over time, we're also hoping that they will get better, that they will learn to cut lines, and we give them opportunities for that. But we're not going to get crazy saying, hey, this is what we have to do. So do you guys ever bid yourselves out of jobs you don't want? How do you turn down work? I struggle with this, and customers I don't want. Jake Jones, yeah. Sometimes we will try to bid ourselves out of work, and then sometimes that comes back and bites you, and then you're stuck with a job, but it pays well, but it's not a job you want to do. You know, Chris, if we're being honest, I think Chris tends to be better at this than Lisa, as far as just telling a customer, no, we're not going to do your job. We're too busy. We're not the right kind of a painter for it. You know, we've gotten better if there are certain red flags that come up working with a client to say, no, you need to find somebody else. So there was one recently that I went and looked at, and it was just going to be a huge headache. It's the kind of job you'd be bogged down on for a week. And if you bid it for what it would cost for us to be there for a week, they would flip their lid. And so it's just a polite, hey, look, that's not the kind of work that we're interested in doing. Our schedule's pretty full. But sometimes we would say, hey, check the Better Business Bureau, or here's a painter that does that kind of a work, and we'll throw that out there. I usually throw my paint on the wall. Cool. John McCain, I think thank you for that super chat, $2. You'll never die. Congrats. Can you paint over shakes that have been stained? Yes, you can. Obviously, you want to check what they were stained with, and you want to check how much of that stain is still there, if it's still got that tacky or oiliness. If it does, you would probably be well served to use probably an oil-based primer over the top of that in order to help your acrylic coating bond to those shakes. But yeah, I mean, everything's paintable. It's just how much work you're going to have to get to that point. I dislike painting above tile roofs. Yeah, okay, so I'll go back. So XC Painter brings up a good point. Sometimes tile roofs make me a little nervous because I'm just walking around and I see where somebody else broke a bunch of tiles, and I'm like, I don't want to get stuck with that. So yeah, sometimes things like that, I'm just like, less nervous, more just anxiety about the job. How long should I wait between coats of ceiling paint? The Boba Fett's? And honestly, until it's dry, typically it's until it's dry enough that when I put paint on, that the new paint is actually going to go on and it's not going to pull things off. When working with a lot of these acrylic coatings, especially ceiling paint, how porous it is. The dry time between coats is they're giving you big windows for kind of extravagant circumstances that may not always be the case, but their lawyers make them cover their behinds. But it really is just once it's dry, you go. Kenny Sanders, John, I love you, but you're so lost by yourself. I am so lost. So lost without you. Top 5 steps in training employees. We should get to that at some point. You know, when it comes to training new employees, that is something that typically ends up on my well, not on my lap, because that's a sexual harassment suit waiting to happen, but that ends up as my workload. That's what I'm looking for. Typically what we'll do is when we've got someone new, especially if they're brand new, really anybody new to the company, they get to ride around with me for a couple of days, and that makes them my captive audience between job sites. And that's where I just get to basically vomit on them this spiel that I've memorized and broken up and rememorized and things like that. But we've done this enough times, we've had enough people come in and go, things like that, that I've got it pretty well down. And so one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to look at them, and it's to me, the biggest thing is helping them understand the culture, the company culture, and what the expectations are. If they can do that, if they can understand those things and the expectations we have, teaching them to paint, for the most part, there are some people that are mechanically just ill fit for a trade, but usually they've weeded themselves out in that process anyways. But usually we can work with them from there, and we can work with, I can make them efficient and economical enough of an employee that we can pay them. And then basically it's up to them on their speed and the skills they learn for how much more they want to make. We don't stand in anyone's way. We're going to say, we'll teach you anything you want us to teach you, but it's up to you. Usually I'm going to talk to them about, you know, that same thing, that it's going to be, you know, we require a lot of our guys. We ask a lot of them. We work them hard, but we also want to take good care of them, and we want to have a fun working environment. But that also means we have that expectation on our guys. We'll talk about how our reputation is the top priority, because look, we get the majority of our work is by referral. Because it's by referral, we've got to defend that reputation. And so I talk with them through different things about how, hey, look, it's important that you're not out on your phone in the front yard, because maybe the homeowner isn't home and so they won't see you. But you know what? That neighbor across the street, and that neighbor over on that side of the street, and that neighbor on that side of the street, they may be home and they may be looking, and all they may see for that 30-second glimpse that they look over is some dude standing on their phone. And so they need to understand we're working in a fishbowl. We get a lot of compliments about how polite, how quiet, how courteous our guys are. And we take a lot of pride in that, because we from the get-go make sure they understand that. And then I watch that like a hawk. That is the one thing. I've sent guys home a couple of times for different things, but that is one of the big things that I have no tolerance for, is if I feel like you're endangering our reputation on the job site, you got to go. And then we're going to have a really not nice talk a little bit later about that. And so, you know, we talk about making sure the trash gets kept up, that the job site gets left nicer than it was before, that we're taking care of the homeowner's property, that we're going out of their way to move things. I tell my guys, you know, obviously wear sunglasses, things like that. But if the homeowner comes out to you, you take those sunglasses off, you look them in the eye. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. All of those things. And, you know, some of them may think it's rigid, but we stick to it, because that is what gets us the next job. And that's what gets them their next paycheck. And that's what keeps us busy. And we like being busy, because not being busy isn't fun. you know, it's a lot of those kind of things that I'm talking with as we're training them. You know, we have a set things that we get them started on. Guys are going to do lights. They're going to pull lights, numbers, downspouts. They're going to get drop cloths out. They're going to get to know the vehicles, things like that. Typically, I tell them, hey, look, I'm going to tell you where everything's at in the vans. I'm going to be really clear about when I ask you to go grab something, but some of the reason they're a gopher and getting things, and some of the reasons they're doing the jobs that we've lined out for them in the beginning, is because we want them to learn where things are, and we want them to learn our process. So learn our culture, learn our process, and learn where the tools are. Those are their 3 jobs for the first 30 days. And ideally, if they have any smarts to them, they're going to pick that up pretty quickly, and we get to progress on from there to things like actually painting and doing the prep work and some of the things that they actually want to do, rather than just pulling off downspouts off of a house and numbering them. Although we do have some guys that's what they do for the majority of the summer. I told a guy I can't do his job today. He hung up on me. That's a bummer. What's my opinion on the AccuBrush? We have a video on that. You should check it out. I'm pretty sure we dropped it off of some very tall height. What is one of the most memorable things you and Krista laugh about that you messed up? We've messed up. Yeah, I don't want to say we've messed up a lot of things, because we're not like butchers out there just like destroying everybody's property. But one of the we've got stories we laugh about. But one of the things we laugh about is being up on a lift up in a kind of a resort town north of us, and it was just, we shouldn't have been in it. We wanted to get the job done. It was the only lift rental available in the area, and the thing was just a dinosaur, and it didn't work, and we were up, and it was stretched out as far as it could, and it's on a bit of an incline, and the lake is just down over that way. And Chris is like got like 2 extensions on, and he's getting this last little section, and I'm trying to get him closer, and all of a sudden the drive kicks out on it, and we start slowly rolling towards the lake, fully extended. I think it was a 65-foot boom. We're fully extended all the way out, and we're just rolling towards the lake, and nothing is working. None of the controls are working, nothing like that. And I remember just like, you know, you like freeze, but your internal monologue is just like 1,000 miles a minute. And I was just like, okay, how do I tell him that we've got to jump? Like, we got to bail. She's going down, man. Jump. And luckily it stopped, and we got off that thing as fast as we can. But there are things like that we laugh about. It's cool to have worked with someone for so long that you've got just all those experiences and things. Michael Rose, John, can you grain fill oak cabs using Sherwood 24% vinyl sealer? You know what? At some point, yeah, if you lay on enough vinyl sealer and sand it down, it's going to fill the grain. But things like Aqua Coat are going to help speed that process up for you immensely. That's one of the reasons I also do like that E63 primer when we're doing lacquer, is I do feel like it does help fill the profile on those things better than that P65 primer. Let's see. Just got a Mighty M pressure washer, as you do, belt drive. That thing is a beast. The vibrating paintbrush batteries have died. Maybe that means you've been using it too much. What about resilience? Well, Kenny, what about resilience? We do use resilience still in our shoulder season. So that's going to be early spring, late fall, when the weather is cold and we need something that sets up. I like duration a lot, but duration does not work well under 50 degrees. Really, I don't even like using duration unless it's over 55, close to 60 degrees. And some of that's a personal preference. Well, no, the issue is it just doesn't dry. I feel like there's more overspray I have to deal with, and it's a big pain. But we have started to see some issues with resilience from houses that we've done not that long ago, and the colors have faded a lot faster than they should, and we're getting issues with chalking. There's things we are working on resolving. Obviously, the client gets taken care of; they get their stuff repainted for free. But it's a matter of hey, can we trust this product if this is what's going to happen? But I also think there's been some reformulations because of I feel like resilience has been different this year than it was last year. Where the hell is Chris and Lisa? I mean, Vladimir, you don't, I mean, it's me. You don't want to hang out with me? I thought we were having a good time here. And here you are asking, where's Chris? Where's Lisa? Chris and Lisa, they are flying back from Kentucky. They got to spend a little time away. They got to hit up the Kentucky Derby, which I think is something that's always been on Chris's kind of like a bucket list thing. And so they are getting in late tonight, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow. What did I do to my hand? It's just torn up because I was doing some gardening, and I don't have a green thumb or a green palm. Now it's a big red palm. And I was also working on a horse stable today, which was disgusting, and I didn't want things in it. And then I cleaned it out and changed it, and I'm trying to take care of myself. Okay. Don't hate at me for trying to take care of myself. Scott Hyland, best vehicle for a paint contractor, the one that runs. But really, you know, I like the big box van that we have. It's an E350, a Ford E350. Having a box van is great. I know guys like trailers. I know guys like trucks and trailers. I know guys like vans. They like the Sprinters, which I think are the ones you can walk inside. It really just depends on your preference. You just find a system that works well for you. We use an E350. We've got an E250 and an E150, and they're the short box or short body Econoline vans. You know, they work pretty well. Obviously, space is a premium in those, but they work for us. The dogs are going crazy. What HVLP do you use every day? We run both the Titan Cap Spray 115 and the Graco Pro Contractor 9.5. I think that's what it's called. I favor the Titan Cap Spray 115 a little more than the Graco just because I've been using it more. I'm comfortable with it. I like the Titan gun better than the Graco gun. But they both get the job done. I really like the Smart Stop or Smart Start on the Graco. That's really nice because then you don't have to have someone turn the turbine off for you, or it's not just running all the time. It turns off once it's, you know, gotten up to pressure. But, you know, you win some, you lose some on it, apparently. See you, Dawn. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. When doing an accent wall, I use clear caulking for the straight line. Sometimes it looks like a white line. Is that because too much clear? Yeah, Argos painting and decorating, pull out more of that clear caulking when you're running that line. And probably what you're seeing more is you're probably seeing the build on the caulking, and it won't show clear when it's cutting through kind of that cross section. And so you just take more of it out. You just want to use just a tiny bit to help seal up that tape. What kind of paint do you normally use and why? We use all sorts of paint, Alan, and it just depends on what the purpose is. We use mostly Sherwin-Williams, and a lot of that's because they are like locusts here. They one, they've bought up and eaten everybody who was their competitor, and two, they have stores everywhere, which is convenient. There's something to be said for having stores everywhere. So, you know, I think they do have some good products. They have some bad products, but I think that's the same. I'm going to say it. I also think Benjamin Moore has some bad products. I know that's not popular, but I'm not a huge fan of everything Benjamin Moore puts out. You know, all of these companies, they have good products, they have bad products. It's that process of making sure you're going through and finding what are the good products and you're applying them correctly. Yeah, if your guys are rude, you will pay the price. That stuff, especially in these days of social media, that happens a ton between Yelp, between Nextdoor, between Facebook. I got in some trouble last winter because we had just like a ton of snow come in, and I was driving that big box van with dualies on it. And we had spent the week before, I think I'd spent 10 hours digging our vans out from places. And so I was trying to get through this subdivision, and I sped up through this one section, and it was there's this big slushy lake. I didn't see this guy behind a car that was parked there, and the dually splashed a bunch of water up on him. He went on social media and was not very happy about it. And so that was an apology that had to happen and things like that. It was an accident. Obviously, we don't get to confront that head on usually, but you got to be careful about your reputation, because with social media and things like that, it can spread like a wildfire. I got a Lucas brush, once broke in. I love it. Yeah, the Lucas brushes are pretty cool. I like them. I wish they had a 3-inch brush, and I wish they had an angle bristle. But I think they're great bristles, or great brushes and great bristles. Why do I have to clean the gun filter after using Resilience? Resilience, the reason we use Resilience is because it tacks up super fast. But the problem with it tacking up super fast is it seems like the paint is dirtier than other paints, and you get a lot more debris coming through your line. And so that debris will collect on that filter. Again, if you clean it every time, it's not a problem, but sometimes we will have an apprentice who's in a hurry and will not pull the filter out and clean it, or forget. I give them the benefit of the doubt that they forgot, and then I harp on them. If it collects it over a course of time, it can be a bit of an issue. You vacuum better than my wife, John. Thanks. I think. Yeah, thanks. I'll take that compliment. Whoa, it's almost 8 o'clock. So let's see. We've been having fun. Yeah, we should give something away, Brian. Numbers, correct. Let's give away a Paint Life hat. For those of you who have gone through all of my ranting and talking, a Paint Life hat. Okay, I'm going to write it right on the inside here, and we're going to do a number between 50 and 100. And go. Hit me with your best shot. Hit me with your best shot. So apparently someone didn't like my singing. That's sad. I worked hard on that singing, but I'm not going to be quitting my day job. Between 50 and 100, my friends, for a Paint Life hat that could be all yours. And this one hasn't even been sweat in by me. It's brand new. Oh, man, this is where it's nice to have a partner in crime here with you, because one person can watch and you can keep talking and there's not just that dead space. But we're going to make do with it. I did see somebody said they tried frog tape for the first time today and they loved it. That is one of the things that we for sure keep in our vans is frog tape. And a lot of times it's not even because it's got the seal stuff in it. The paper is thicker and it doesn't splinter. So there are certain instances where we'll use frog tape instead of like a normal production tape, because I know it's not going to be a pain to get off. And to me, yes, the roll is more expensive, but it's all about getting that project done and that task done in a quick and efficient manner. Man, you guys, like, your number choosing game is off today. I don't see anything yet. Between 50 and 100. Nope, nothing. Oh, I see someone. Our good friend. Actually, I don't know if this guy's ever won anything before. Brian Dzelski. I'm sorry if I butchered that, man. Brian Dzelski, you are the proud new owner of a Paint Life hat. I'm going to shoot you the email. It is live show at the-idaho-painter.com. Email us your contact info and we will get that shipped out to you. It'll be like a nice little surprise for Lisa when she gets back. Like, hey, here's a few things to ship out. So Brian, congratulations. Well done. Enjoy that hat. Like I said, we've had different iterations of hats, and this one is one of my favorites. So I think we got like 2 minutes left for real quick last questions. Again, last reminder, do make sure you guys check out contractorsuccesssummit.com. They got to interview us. It was me, it was Lisa, it was Chris. We were all sitting here and we talked about social media. We talked about our estimating process and just thinking outside the box on different things. But it's not just us. It's going to be, I think it's 18 or 19 other contractors, other businesses, consultants, things like that, who are giving you some of their best advice. And it's free. It's free. And that's going to be from May 14th through the 16th at contractorsuccesssummit.com. Do check that out. It is, it's going to be cool and it's free. Who doesn't like free? You can find our Paint Life stuff on our website, theidahopainter.com. We did just True Swipe stuff. We've just gotten that in. If you haven't checked this stuff out, guys, this is going to save you a ton of heartache if you're trying to figure out if you've got oil or water-based. Also, this is pretty darn good for getting rid of runs if you're shooting interior trim projects, and it melts them away. It takes away that whole issue of having to wet sand and then Bondo, and you got to wait for your dry times and all of that. You're able to go through, you can clean up an issue or run that you've had as soon as it's tacked up a little bit, and you can respray, and it's amazing. That's all I got. It's amazing. Advance or Emerald for interior trim tomorrow. You know what? I would flip a coin. I like the Emerald trim urethane. It just takes a while to dry. I haven't used a ton of Advance, but it's decent stuff. Let's see. Do you guys ever come to Canada? You know what? Someday we will. Someday we will see our friendly neighbors in the Great White North and hang. Let's see. Titan 540 or 640. Which one is better for commercial and residential? Look, Carlos, I mean, bigger is going to be better. Like if you go up to that 640, it's going to cost you a little bit more, but what you're going to be able to do in the long run with it is going to be better for you. We run an 1140, and it's probably, well, no, it's not probably, it is overkill for a lot of the residential work that we do, but having it there for when we do need to spray elastomeric or we do need to pump a lot of stuff out, and how much less that pump works than a 640 or even an 840, it's going to save us in the long run. And I really think economically you get your money back on that by not having to repack as often. Let's see. How much do I sleep? Probably not enough. So between Chris and I, he like goes to bed at like 2:30 in the morning, and then I'm usually up at 4:30. So really, the world is only without one of us for about 2 hours, and then we're back at it. But I don't stay up that late. That's crazy talk, and nobody needs that nonsense. So, guys, I think that we should call it a night. We could keep going, but my voice is starting to get tired. And like I said, I did get up at 4:30 this morning, and I'm a little hungry. And then I'll get hangry. And it's sad. It's really sad. But thank you guys for being a part of the Paint Life community. Like I said at the beginning, you guys make this thing a joy. And you guys make painting a joy, not only for us, but for all of these other people that are on this chat. Like you coming up, showing up, being a part of the stuff on social media, being a part of sharing photos, being a part of raising that bar. You make this trade better for everybody else who's here too. And that's pretty darn amazing. Like you get to be a part of that. And that's why we want this to be like, this isn't just us. This isn't about us. We want this to be something great for lots of people for a long time. And so thank you guys for being a part of this. Thank you guys for contributing, answering questions, giving advice, giving your experiences. You know, like I said, we don't have it all figured out. We are learning all of the time, and painting to me is one of the most humbling trades that you could ever endeavor to try and master. I don't know if we ever master it, but as you learn the trade and things change and the technologies change and the chemistry changes, it keeps you humble. And at the same time, that challenge is always there, and that's a ball. So thanks for being on this journey with us, and thanks for hanging. You guys rock. So you guys Have a good night. I don't say out. That's not my thing. That's Chris's thing. So this is me not saying out.